Hey everybody for UTSA, Ms. Zaldibar, I hope you're doing really good. This is for the Italian Literature, Family, Faith, and Food class. With all that being said, I hope everyone is doing good in health. You, of course, Professor, I hope you're doing okay wherever you are in quarantine. I apologize again for the delay, but here we are. This is the final project I had set for the whole class. I was supposed to read my essay to everybody in this video, but I'm not going to do that because I feel that's going to be too boring and too long. So what I decided to do instead was to actually present it myself in my own personal way. So I'm going to do that with that being said. The final project I decided to do was on the Venetian Carnival during the Carnival season before the Lenten season. So if anyone doesn't know, Carnival is a world-renowned celebration that goes on all around the world in the time before preparation of Easter. But before that, I wanted to introduce to a lot of cultures, traditions, and topics that are a huge deal in this holiday concept. So, it originated in Venice in the 13th century. In 13th century Venice, it was throughout the Middle Ages. The early church was just about to, in its dominance of power. So it took its inspiration from the New Testament stories of Jesus in the wilderness, being tempted by the devil for 47 days. That story actually inspired this 40-day period of admiration called Lent, which is posted through Ash Wednesday, which is the beginning day of that Lenten season. This went around between the end of winter and the beginning of spring. The day before Lent, however, this was a huge excuse for a lot of people back then in the Middle Ages to find ways to party, to indulge, to drink, to gamble, sex, you name it. So it was the last day everybody was free before everybody had to give up everything that they want or they indulged in for the sake of Christ and the church. But before all that decoration, the whole party began with Carnival, which is French and Italian for Fat Tuesday. So traditions of Carnival actually originated in a lot in the 13th century, but also it went on to continue towards the 18th century forward. But a lot of those traditions involved wearing masks. So masks were a huge part of Carnival because it made you into something mysterious that no one recognized you with. It made you have an excuse to go indulge and have drinks, parties, and just be someone you're not supposed to. The goal was to indulge in all that was forbidden in Lent to come. It was all a party to get things over with before everybody had to sacrifice. With that being said, there were a lot of masks that cultivated in this tradition. A lot of it is like this one. It's called the Bauta. I have two of them actually. Actually, when I bought these, I wanted to get a trend of comedy. Oh, this is comedy. Comedy and tragedy. Now this would play a huge role in the tradition to come because theater would be a huge deal in many of these mask formations, but I will get to that in a few minutes. Another example here would be the Pantalone mask. Again, we have two over here. Tragedy, comedy again. And another example, which is right here, we have this is actually a combination of two characters actually. We have the Arlecchino pattern over here, and we have the Colombina side in the other direction. This is a good characteristic of two other characters that are based on this mask, which comes to with the direction of theater. So what does theater have to do with masks in the Carnival, as you say? Well, masks actually play a tradition in another tradition that originated in the Carnival, but this time in the 16th century, the tradition of theater. Theater was a huge part in the Carnival characters, which originated in these type of masks. So like Pantalone, Arlecchino, and Colombina, those are all characters of a type of theater called the Commedia dell'arte. The Commedia dell'arte was random improvised Italian theater for the masses back around between 16th and 18th century. This was not scripted theater, it was all improvised, but the characters that it introduced were unforgettable, like Arlecchino, Colombina, Pantalone. These are all variations of characters that were examples of Lazzi and Zanni. Now, this duration of theater, in my opinion, I think in a lot of people's opinions, actually originated in the form of slapstick, which you see in a lot of slapstick gigs like the Three Stooges and Looney Tunes, but that's another story. But that tradition of theater stuck with the tradition of wearing masks and pretending to be something you're not, and just masquerading and just having an excuse to go indulge in everything. And of course, in another tradition, we have the masquerade ball, which is a good indication of the masquerade itself. But, however, there was also a chance, of course, to indulge in the foods. And I have two examples over here that actually is not too bad. So we have the risottos over here that are actually fried pastry cakes that are like the beignets in New Orleans, but they're actually an Italian-based form. So you can dip them in chocolate sauce, you can actually drizzle them, and it's a real good treat for not Mardi Gras, New Carnevale. I'm thinking French, so pardon me. Another example would be tiramisu. Now, this is not an original carnival treat, but it is Venetian. It did originate in the time the carnival was revised in the 1970s. And it's a good treat nonetheless. So, and it's one of my personal favorite desserts. So back to the history of the carnival, it went back to the time of up until the 18th century. The 18th century was when it really flourished and when everybody just went in party mode, because during that time, Venice was decreasing from its mercantilism powers that it gained its power from. After the discovery of the New World, Venice was on the other side between the Silk Road and their trade routes. So mercantilism was dying, the Enlightenment was coming alive at the time of the 18th century. While everybody was accepting these new ideologies and these new types of idealisms, Venice was still in its mercantilism world and denying it while just drinking, partying, just celebrating, and just dancing. And this would come and bite them back in the butt after that, because not too long, another person came to tell them the real reality, and that was when Napoleon, yes, Napoleon Bonaparte, came and conquered all of Italy, including Venice, around 1900. After that, the Italian tradition of the carnival was gone for a while. It died out for a century. That is until 1976, when it was fully revised into a fully more traditional, more sophisticated, and fabulous celebration that still holds the tradition of the carnival from the time. Today, the carnival is celebrated as it was in the 1970s. A lot of festivities, a lot of masks, a lot of costumes, a lot of masquerades, a lot of parades, and a lot of indulgences. And I would say it's pretty amazing. There you have it. That was my intake on the Venetian Carnival. I hope you enjoyed all of it. I hope to see you all sometime when this is over. But until then, arrivederci, a tutta bella, buonasera.